evening, everybody. It's James Diboe, your host on Discovering on Big Condo Online, and we are back again. This time we are on season 2. We finished off season 1. You know, we've had very good feedback, and I'm looking forward to season 2. The first guest today, he's been on before, Ras Congo. And Ras Congo is important that I brought him back today because he's going back to Rwanda maybe sometime in the next few weeks, month. But I have to get this man on again, you know, good friend as well. And, you know, I connect with him spiritually as well, you know, and as a world traveler and a very open mind. That's another reason why Ras Congo is definitely back on again. But I want to say, how you doing, Ras, anyway? Are you everything
very
okay?
good. Thank you. Thanks, James. Thank you, Chase. It's very good to be on the second season and to kick it off. Great privilege. Big condo online. Fantastic, bro.
Thanks for coming back anyway. You know, things are like rush, and, you know, you got many things to do and that. But today, you know, we're going to be dealing with world travels. You know, that's something that we can both relate to. All the continents of the world we traveled, different places, met so many different kinds of people, and also spirituality. Now, we deal with African spirituality, and also everybody has a spirituality around the world, but I see a connection. Even though people can have their own different kind of spirituality, but it's all relating to one thing as common. So we deal with some traveling first anyway. You know, I mean, you've been all around Africa. You know, like, what's some of the places in Africa would you describe or talk about?
I think first and foremost, you know, I've been very privileged. And what made me travel was many things. I've always been curious, as you know.
Yes.
And the best way, I've always read. I love reading and things like that, but sometimes you have to jump from the page into the actual situation.
Yeah.
I think when I was younger, I remember I was part of the Methodist, and we had a bit of a youth exchange between some German people. So there were some German kids.
Yeah.
They came to Liverpool, and we went to rugby, and from rugby we went on a canal barge for about 2 weeks. That's how long it took us to get to Birmingham.
Wow. Yeah.
Right? And then we was as part of the exchange we were supposed to go, but unfortunately I fell out with one of the guys who was running it, Joe Brown, who I loved dearly. Yeah. At the time I wasn't happy, but it's down to him that really planted the seed of travelling. So I was very upset, but then, as I say, Joe done me a favour because what you perceive as a curse can be a blessing and vice versa. So within a year, I was going to Jamaica for the first time.
Right.
It was the first time I'd been on an aeroplane anyway. I went on my own, so I was like very anticipating. And I've jumped on the plane, and it's just been an experience from that first time on the plane to getting off the plane and having 2.5 months in Jamaica. And I met so many people. Obviously, you have, like, you know, Rastafarian, you have, you know, Afrocentric people and cultural people and just people who are just living life and they want to be happy and they want to bring happiness. So I started understanding spirituality and the difference between spirituality over organized man-made religion, you know?
Yeah.
And then I started traveling to Africa. The first place I started going to was Egypt. I saw that as vital in terms of not so much Egypt today, but Egypt in the past, Kemet.
Okay.
And so I'm doing like journeys to Luxor, modern day Luxor, which was once Thebes, right? Or Thebes, depending on how you want to say it, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Saw the Avenue of Sphinx, went to Giza, saw the Great Pyramid. I was unbelievable when you see these things and you know that they've been there for thousands of years, and even the timeline has been revised time and time again. You see the Sphinx, all these things. And then, you know, when you're going along, like, say, the Temple of Dendra, and you see imagery, you see all the statues, even though there's been a lot of vandalization over the years, it's clear that the people who ruled Egypt in them earlier dynasties in particular look like you, me, and Chase. Yeah. It's the same face and the same grace. Yeah. Just a different time and place.
That's it.
So basically, there was a lot of things that I saw that kind of knocked my judo crystal mindset at the time, because I was very much into Bible, and I'm not anti-Bible before anybody gets the wrong end of the stick. And I'd just like to say there's many people who follow the Bible or follow the Quran or follow whatever book, and they're nice people, and some people that claim to follow it, and they may not be as nice as some of the other counterparts, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I saw a lot of things that made me question some of the stories, in particular in the Old Testament and the timeline.
Yeah.
It made me think about these people that are in the Bible. Is it possible that they were from the land of Kemet and other lands in Africa, and they've just been put in a different timeline, in a different area? Even though what is now Palestine in those places is Africa anyway.
Most definitely.
We get geographical about it.
Yeah, most definitely.
But, we do live in not necessarily a conspiracy, right? But we live where there's an agenda, and the agenda is to make, whitewash history, and to also make black people feel negative about themselves, because if you've been making white people feel negative about black people, and then black people are buying into that as well. That's right. I've been to a lot of places in Africa. One place that I didn't really know about until I went to Zimbabwe in 1994. Yeah. Great Zimbabwe. It was where Zimbabwe got its new name from, after the brutality of Cecil Rhodes and Rhodesia, right? Yes. So it's a place called Great Zimbabwe. I went down there. Again, this has been put in many different timelines. Some great historians actually push it thousands of years in the past, and it's been inhabited by different peoples. There was a German anthropologist, historian called Karl Mauch, I think. Karl Mauch. And Karl Mauch went there, like a lot of his counterparts go to these places, and he refused to accept that indigenous Africans, Shona people, anything like that, built this great structure. Yeah. And he was saying, it was Phoenicians that did it. They came over. You know what I mean? All these things. So it made me realize, and I've realized that the lies are real, and I've been taught these things from a younger age, but we'll come to that at the end. Yeah. The importance of African history. But it made me realize, as I say, that there's a massive agenda, right, to keep black people, right, from knowing their true greatness and their true identities. We could even move it wider and say the elite want everybody not to. So it's not just a black thing, but, blacks, the burden is the heaviest, you know what I mean? Yeah, but this is why it's so important to study yourself. Absolutely. When I first started getting into African history, I was also studying DNA, I was studying migrations, and I was linking up different peoples in Africa and different parts of the world. Mm-hmm. So seeing Egypt now, it's like a big, massive library there. Mm-hmm. It's too much information for one set of people to come up with. I've studied the migration from sub-Saharan Africa, as we call it, into Egypt. Yes. Ramses III was a Bantu. Uh-huh. And you know this by the linguistics. Yes. There's linguistics that link Congo to Egypt. Yeah, Niger-Congo Basin. Niger-Congo Basin. Definitely. Because you got Niger-Congo A, you got Niger-Congo B. B equals Bantu. Absolutely, brother. Because they don't deal with West Africa. There's a big distortion with the Bantu where West Africa, they try to separate it. They deal with Eastern Nigeria, Cameroon, but all them languages like the Mandi, Niger-Congo, they are all connected. They all connect, they all go way back. And the thing is, even if you look at, you look at random tribes in those areas, you look at the Igbo, even Yoruba, even, what's the one now, the Dogon. The Dogon, all these, amazing. Right, so a lot of these people, these tribes, they are not unfamiliar with where they've been. Exactly. Not to say that life started in Egypt as such, but people have got legs. People aren't trees where they stay rooted, you know what I mean? Exactly. People always move, and they moved all over the world, you know what I mean? So exactly. Yeah. Well, even look, when I went to the Fiji Island, for example,
And they told me that, well, we came from Africa, and not just Africa, Lake Tanganyika in East Africa.
They pinpointed
Tanzania.
the exact location.
And the fact that when I got to meet the chiefs and I got to meet the spokesman, the warrior, this is all confirmation of what I only researched before I got there anyway. And the fact that when you go to a place, you've been many places, so when you know a bit about the people or you want to learn, you embrace more, as you can see.
Absolutely.
I mean, when we go into Asia now, for example, you know, you've been a good few places in Asia, and you went to New Zealand as well.
Yeah.
So say you're dealing with Asia, and if you look at the connection with Africa and Asia, I'm sure you've seen a lot of the black Buddhas in Asia.
Absolutely.
Krishna,
I mean,
black one.
Krishna in itself means perfect blackness.
Yeah.
In the same way Congo means perfect blackness.
That's it.
And as you know, the earliest statues of the Buddha are of a, African-looking individual.
Definitely.
With cornrow hair.
Cornrow
tight
hair. That's
you know
right.
what I mean? Black Buddha.
Yeah.
So, a lot of these things can't be denied. You know what I mean? Although the people have tried their very best to do that.
Yeah.
But if, for example, like my father came to the UK in the 50s.
Yeah.
From Barbados. He's not originally from Barbados. He was born there. But obviously, we don't need to go into the history of how they got there because, slavery and plantation.
Of course.
But there's been constant movements between people.
Exactly.
Enslaved and free traversing as well, you know what I mean? Like, documented throughout thousands of years, you know what I mean? So it's like you go over to, for example, Australia. I don't see the Aborigine people that much different. Obviously, they've got different customs. They've branched off. It's like you look at the tree of life. It's all from the same roots.
Same root.
And one branch may be here, one branch may be there, you know what I mean? But it's all the same tree, different branch.
Exactly.
And when I look at the Aborigine, what's left of them, God bless them people there, because the Tasmanians, they got done in, decimated.
Yeah.
So when you look at the Aborigines, and you look at, say, some Sri Lankan and some Southern Indian peoples and Dravidian people, you have to say to yourself, there's a definite link there. Even when you look over to, like, you've talked about when you went to Melanesia, and these places, you know what I mean? And you can see the link there. Then you have to say to yourself, on an oceanography level, it's proven that lands, like obviously, the whole tectonic plates and all these earthquakes and, one landmass and separating and or whatever, You look at these ridges that have sunk. The Bering Strait one time was not underwater.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The English Channel was not there. So Britain, the British Isles weren't isles. They were connected to mainland Europe.
That's right.
There's been a lot of changes, and, there'll be more changes possibly beginning in our lifetimes and the lifetimes of our children and children's children, because when you look at it now, all these changes happen because of the orbit of the Earth in relation to the sun and the interplanetary connections.
Yeah.
But also, there's been like some man-made issues as well.
That's right.
I think the man-made issues are small in comparison with the natural spin of the planets and their relation, distance with the sun and all these things, you know what I mean?
But it's interesting when you said about Australia and the connection with the Dravidians, because the first people to get to Australia were more Africoid-looking people like you're seeing in Tasmania and Melanesia. But then you get a second wave during about 4,000 years ago, and science actually, it's actually on the news, he actually showed it, where 4,000 years ago, people from India got to Australia and would have mixed with some 11% of Aboriginal Australians have Indian in the DNA. But I went to see the Veda tribes in Sri Lanka, the Vedas, and you can see that connection where they have looser hair.
Very strong, and very strong connections. Visibly, before you even get into the culture and the visibly,
And then like Melanesia, there's another connection there where people in the, not just Fiji, Tonga, then you go to Hawaii. If you look at pictures of the Hawaiian queen back in the late 1800s.
A black woman.
That's a black woman, so Hawaii now, like when I went there, I mean, I'm trying to search for the indigenous people. So every time I'm finding someone who looks the closest to an original, I'm making sure that I'm having a good chat with them, get some pictures as proof. Some of these like Southeast Asian tribes, the Orange Azli, I've showed you a lot of the pictures.
I've seen them, James, and it makes you wonder, doesn't it? If you look at where Hawaii is in the Pacific Ocean, they say the Pacific Ocean is the largest ocean. Yeah. And you look at that part of the world, and there's only a few little islands, and some people have they've kind of demonstrated that there was a land there, like a continent there. Some people call it Lemura.
Lemura,
Some people call it Mu.
Yeah, Mu.
And a lot of our, coming back to the spirituality aspect of things, right? I think when the ancients have their order, and it was just, we can call it spirituality, but really it is spirituality, but it's just the observation of nature.
That's all it is.
And that's the beautiful thing about it, that like in terms of God's word, if you want to call it God's word or whatever, it can't really be in a page. You can get a good vibration from reading something, you know what I mean? But the God's word really is in the creation. It's observing nature. What goes up must come down. The birds, as soon as the egg hatches, the bird's got its mouth open. You have to put something in it. These are just, you know what I mean? Like you look at the clouds and you can see rain is coming. Oh, it's a blue sky.
That's right.
You know what I mean? And like there has to be that relationship with our Mother Earth that we're living on. And this whole industrialization and the first so-called industrial revolution was actually created on land theft, resource theft, and mass enslavement and mass genocides as well. Yeah. So we look at like a lot of the harm that has happened to the earth as being pushed by greed, corporate ideologies, entitlement, all these things, you know what I mean? Lack of humanity. So it's all it's anti-natural. So when you come with that anti-natural blueprint and you make it the ruling class and they're pushing that agenda, not a conspiracy, it's an agenda.
It's an agenda,
right? So when you see that, you know that these people are destroying Earth, and you have to say to yourself, why would people want to destroy Earth? Are they from Earth originally? I don't know, because if you love...
Good question.
We're born on the planet. We love the planet. We love the water. We love the sunshine. We love the comforts. We love everything. We love our human communities. Yeah, we love the birds, everything. You know what I mean? And you know, these people, remember, like even today, you've seen and I've seen various tribes along the world who are still trying to live in their natural way. Some who have been disturbed, trying to do that. If they chop down a tree, they're going to plant a tree.
Exactly. Because
fair exchange is no robbery. They're not just going to knock down loads of trees and leave, because they know they're not scientists, you know. They haven't been to university. They haven't been to Cambridge. They're not talking a language that just high convoluted language where you can't follow. They're just very basic people because it's simplistic.
Every living thing has a soul.
Every living thing has a soul. It's part of creation. And if you're taking something, you have to give thanks and you have to put it back. You know what I mean? And the dominant, unfortunately, the dominant rulers of the earth over the last 500 years have not had that mindset. They've not respected the earth. They've not respected the resources. They've not respected the people. They've not respected the wildlife. And now we all have to pay the piper for that. You know,
well, I'm looking at a lot of people that are near enough going extinct. Obviously, we've got some animals going extinct, but we've got the Mani tribe in Thailand, and there's about 300 people left. And one thing about the Mani, you've got other tribes, but I concentrate on the Mani because they are the last of the oldest original black people of Thailand. So sometimes, like, people say, well, the word tribe is divide, but I don't really see this. That's only when the tribe fighting with the tribe. Or tribe is, you know, it's, you've got to identify with a particular people, particular area, even though we're all oneness. But I mean, like, because some people see tribes as divide.
Well, I you know, at the end of the day, right?
I only mentioned that only because of sometimes I'll say indigenous people and indigenous tribe. To some people, they'll say, well, it's indigenous people, where I can use either way, but the reason why I say tribes like the Mani, because you might get confused with these other tribes who are not indigenous to the original people.
Or the first that came on that land. Yeah, I mean, like, for me, tribe is very basic. So it's like family, tribe, you know, nation. And, like, I love, I'm not an anti-nationalist. Right, but I don't care if somebody needs help. I don't care what colour they are or what country they were born in. I'll try and help them.
Of course.
Because that is the order of creation, right? And I wouldn't help somebody just because over another person, just because they were black. You know what I mean? I'd help both of them, bro.
Of course,
you know what I mean?
Of course.
And I think, like, when it comes to, like, indigenous, these are just nice words that are being made by people like, what's his name? Godfrey Higgins and people like this that wrote some book called Acanopus or something like that. It was around about the early 1800s, and he believed, like a lot of other people, that life was originated in India, and indigenous in India, it comes from the same root.
Right.
It means like it's just indigenous is like, okay, the original or the first people from that particular that land. But the Indians, the rule of Britain in particular was so strong that the Indians weren't really Indians. They were like from the land of Bharat. They don't call themselves Indians, but they've they've been pigeonholed and put in a bracket. Your Indians and your land's India.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And before you know it, you've got like the John Lennon Jesus hanging over your head that the Portuguese came with their church. And like, this is another thing, like, I've got nothing against the whole, white, black or anything like that, but you have to say to yourself, a lot of Africa's problems, right? There's a multitude of them. I'm not going to make it simple, but when we've been colonialised, and it's not just us in the diaspora. They say diaspora, but they want us to diaspora, right? So it's not just us, and you've got an African name, so God bless your lineage. Yeah, I have a plantation name still, right? So it's not just us; it's those people that are in the motherland too, who are being colonialised. Yeah, and they've got this picture of like a guy who looks like John Lennon, and you say to them, "Who's that?" "Oh, that's Jesus Christ." So you say to yourself, "Well, you got a bit of a problem here," and I've got nothing against Christianity, I haven't got nothing against Islam or nothing, but when you say this is the Godhead and these people don't look nothing like you, is there any wonder that you're suffering from self-hatred or a lack of confidence or low self-esteem?
That's right. It is. No, but this is the problem where, like, I see a lot of, like, skin lightening everywhere. All across the world, you see it. Kenya, they're seeing people skin bleaching. Yeah. Seeing it in Gambia. And it's this is the way you get your good job, get noticed. And
the thing is, though, there's history behind it as well, you know, in the sense of, as you know, right? For example, they had certain laws in America in particular, even in, like, Europe, where black women, 100 years, 150 years, 200 years, black women could not show their natural hair in public. They had to cover it. Wow, and enough other things that couldn't express themselves culturally. Yeah. When you pigeonhole people with this sort of thing, brother, it's only a matter of time before you absorb it and then your kids imbibe it, and then it becomes a thing where because your sense of beauty and naturalness has been denied you, right? It could be you could go to your grave still a warrior, but if that is the way things are being, you know, pushed and accepted, it's only a matter of time before you start hating your own natural image. Exactly. And so when they say, "Oh, your hair's relaxed," it's like, you know, for a lot of white folks, and I've seen this, a lot of white folks will say, "Oh, I feel more relaxed being around a black woman whose the hair's relaxed." They're calling it relaxed, but it's not relaxed. It's been obliterated. Yeah. It's your natural hair. You know what I mean? So it's like, and the skin lighting and all these things. If you've got like a guy who looks like John Lennon on the wall, and you're saying this is the Son of God, and you're black as the Ace of Spades, you know what I mean? And you're not too open-minded, you may find yourself reaching for that vanishing cream.
Well, a funny thing is our hair is antennas.
Yeah, you know, aerials, antennas,
the spiral. So what you're doing is when you're straightening your hair, you know, you're kind of disconnecting yourself. Yeah. And, you know, what the spiral shape. Yeah. And also another thing what we definitely need to cover.
I love what you said there, spiral, because this is like the word root for spiritual, you know. See? And you say spiral, and like, you know, the earth has its orbit, the earth's round, the planets are round, they all have the orbit, the sun. Even the sun has its own orbit, you know.
Exactly.
But the sun, for the sun to traverse around all the planets, you know, you're looking at like maybe 26,000 years as a solar year.
Well, seeing as we're on the subject of the sun, then we're dealing, because I wanted to deal with the expression of some of these deities. The sun just being the greatest attribute. I mean, not to confuse things with the supreme being. I mean, I've read Chancellor Williams's book, Destruction of the Black Civilization. Now, when you read that book, he's actually explaining that the priest in the lodges in ancient Kemet was not confused with the supreme being and the deities.
Yes.
Because some people think, well, Africans believe in hundreds of gods. Yeah. Like in Indonesia, you'd have Shango. I mean, and like he's the god of thunder. Yeah. You know, you'd have Ultron.
Which is like equates to the Norse Thor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So to believe, like when you say you believe in hundreds of gods, where you should just believe in one god.
Yeah.
But realistically, a lot of these religions, Western religions, are pagan. You know, like they act like it's like,
you know, like even the word pagan, you know, pagan was like just a Latin word. Somebody who lived outside of Rome, who was a little bit late in getting the news and the latest fashion.
Yeah.
And heathen is like, you know, the heath is the land.
Yeah.
And we all come from the land. Even people who get into this story of Adam and Eve and humus or being made from the soil and all this. So heath, like small heath, Newton Heath. You know what I mean? And basically, it just means soil.
Yeah.
So, like, we're all coming from that. I think, like you say, it's an important point. A lot of the time was because some of the first Europeans who were going into Egypt and excavating, they had a particular Judo-Christo mindset. They were Christian. Yeah. So anything that was coming to them that contradicted, the same way I said to you, when I saw, like, I was in Egypt and I saw at the Temple of Dendra, I saw, like, in the bas relief carved 7 fat cows coming out of the Nile on the right hand side, and then 7 skinny cows coming out of the Nile, right, on the left hand side. So I'm looking at that and I said, and then I started looking at the timeline, and this building, this carving, bas relief, is about 3,000 to 4,000 years before any biblical timeline of the story of Joseph and all that. Okay. So I'm seeing that now, and I'm seeing many other things. That's making me not question things, but it's making me realize, well, hang on a minute, I need to look deeper, because obviously this time frame that I've been given, like some people say, oh, the earth's 6,000 years. You know, it's not 6,000 years, okay?
Yep.
So then you need to start looking in things, you know what I mean? And I see these things and I say to myself, okay, these people have gone there. They've got this one mindset on their, like, whether the Catholic, whether the Anglican, and they're trying to contradict these things with their own belief system. Yeah. But the reality is, like you say, it's a very good question. Africans didn't believe in multiple of gods. And even Asians today, like say Indians and the Hindu, it's not like they're believing in hundreds of gods. They know it's expressions of the creator of creation. Yeah. And we love it so much. We've given it a name like a family. Yeah. I mean, even today, bro, like it's rainy season or just coming out of rainy season in Rwanda. I've been through a few rainy seasons. When you hear that lightning, when you see that lightning and you hear that thunder, right? You know what I mean? As much, it doesn't matter what you're reading or where you're at. You have to, like, you're not afraid, but you have to, the body responds. You may be trembling. It's not like you're afraid, but you realize there's greater powers, you know what I mean? And we're surrounded by them at all time, you know what I mean? And the sun shining, not to say the sun is a god, but we know the sun has a value. Yeah. And therefore it's part of creation, and it's a very important part of creation, and we give thanks. You can't love the creator if you don't love creation. Exactly. How can you love? It's like saying you're a socialist, but you're antisocial. You know what I mean?
But these are important topics because I try my best to explain, just like our ancestors were trying to explain. But like you've just said before, it's not just about reading a book on spirituality. You have to feel it, and you have to experience it and observe it, which is, it can be difficult from what we're told, like the God concept. It's like in India, for example, before Hinduism was known as a religion in 1500 BC, you'll see that they had the same God as the people in Ethiopia, and you prayed on a mountain. His name was Marunde or something like that. And that showed you, like, the connection with Ethiopia and obviously India, and then that same connection when we talk about the Dravidians going into Australia. It's all connected, and this is when I try and say we have a shared spirituality through migrations.
Absolutely. It's even the word hurricane. You know, some people had say Hurry as the supreme being. Yeah. And the hurricane, the word hurricane comes from that. Yeah. You know what I mean? And inundations, because we know, okay, even though we can look at in the Bible, it says, oh, they built this ark. Yeah, Noah builds this ark. The ark is like so. You can't put 2 of everything, because where you are, you can't get 2 of these things because they're like the other side. Yeah. And in the Sumerian tablets, right, and Mesopotamia at that time was African too. Exactly. Make no mistake about it, right? So when you're looking at these things, right, and in the Sumerian Green Emerald text, right, they're talking about, it wasn't an ark. It was more like a submarine that could go under. You know what I mean? Okay. And it wasn't 2 animals. Yeah. It was the life essence which as far as I'm concerned, it's talking about DNA in a Petri dish.
Yeah.
Which makes more sense to me because you're going to be able to contain a lot more life within that particular restricted dimensions than physical animals. Like
Exactly. Well, dealing with the supreme being and the positive and the negative force, we need both. And some people, well, you believe, you try and say God and the devil's the same person. I don't.
Well,
we don't observe the devil. We don't see the devil.
Well, I'll tell you this, bro.
That's a new word.
I'll tell you this. If you look at the word dev, divine.
Yeah.
Look at the word divine, of the vine.
Yeah.
Of the vine, right? So devil, right, is just basically a title, right? I'm not saying there isn't a devil or there is a devil, but at the end of the day, if you want to get deep, who created the devil?
There you go.
And therefore, if you have righteousness as the overall being, or what you call righteousness as a human being, not universal righteousness, because our little mindset is on a different level, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
When we're walking in the road, we're not looking for ants and not to step on ants. And if we stand on an ant, do we really care?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I'd like to say I do, but most of the time I don't.
Yeah.
So if anything happens to me and you, that's just like the same as the ant in the overall scheme of things, right?
That's right there.
So you look at like devil, I think this whole thing of devil and God is like basically it's us, because we have negative and positive. The whole of creation is negative and positive.
Exactly.
Most of the time I try to be divine, but every now and again I might have to slap someone up.
Yeah.
Like even Jesus, the story of Jesus in the Bible. Oh, turn the other cheek. Oh, God, turn the other cheek. Yeah. Well, I'm sure Jesus did turn the other cheek quite a lot of the time, but there was sometimes he didn't turn the other cheek.
Exactly.
And he was uprooting the stalls of the corrupt moneylenders in the temple.
Exactly.
And saying, get the hell out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, brother?
Yeah. So see, like last time we dealt with also the importance of African history.
Yeah.
And, you know, just for the youth and upcoming people.
Yeah.
And also people just don't know about African history.
I can only tell you. I can tell you about, you know, we know where we stand on this. We give thanks for our family structures where we've been taught these things, where we can even get the ball. Our pops or our auntie or mum or whatever throws us the ball, and we're running with it now still.
Yeah.
We're still trying to give that ball to our youngers behind us.
Yeah.
There's a lot of for me, right? If you do not teach your children or your sister's children or your brother's children, if you do not spend time with the youngers in your family and you do not explain to them, not to say you force dogma and morals or you force doctrine. No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, if you don't start reasoning with them, trying to open up the third eye, make them think differently about themselves and the world they're living in, and imbibe them with African traditions, right? And not let's get this right, not everything about African culture is good. You got good and bad aspects of everything, pros and cons. But you have to give them, if they don't have that and they don't receive it, that's the greatest travesty of all, because they grow up divorced from serious knowledge of their true self.
It's not like we can rely on the schools, is it?
We can't rely on the schools because they're still telling you that Christopher Columbus found America.
Yeah.
And Christopher Columbus is a war criminal, and they'll have a Columbus Day.
Yeah.
And, you know what I mean? So, it's, for example, if you don't have, like when they showed me pictures of Harry, right, when Harry was a bit younger, Prince Harry, fingerprints Harry, because they're all thieves.
Yeah.
And Harry's probably less of a thief, but them still a thief, okay? So when they show you a picture of Harry at this party with Guy Pelly and he's dressed in Rommel's Desert Squadron Nazi uniform, I wasn't outraged, because I'm more outraged when I see a British uniform. You can't pull the wool over my eyes, brethren.
Well, that Nazi sign, you see it in, that symbol you see in Egypt and in India.
And Ethiopia.
And
Ethiopia,
basically,
what he did, Adolf, under the tutelage of maybe Helena Blavatsky, he spun it in the other direction.
Yeah.
So when you go in the ancient world, it's the other side. It's spinning it's spinning in the tune, spiraling to the order of creation. What he did, he turned it the other way, which is an anti-creation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, I mean, they didn't really understand. It was basically an experiment. It was never going to last. It was just an experiment, right? To bring about a war that could bring about changes in foreign policy and everything. But the Germans had a few colonies, but they had nothing. They couldn't keep up with Britain in particular, or France, because Britain and France were like top of the Premier League. Germany were in the Vauxhall Conference when it came to colonialism.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, like, how many, you know, look at the Belgians. You know what I mean? Like, they'll tell you Hitler, hit you, they keep hitting you with Hitler, but they don't tell you nothing about...
Look at them in Congo.
About Leopold.
Exactly.
1, 2, and 3, they don't tell you nothing about that.
Exactly.
They don't tell you that, like, it was run by a company. And even today, brother, this is why the importance of African history is truly important. Like, not all cocoa comes from Africa. A large majority of it does. About 30% will come from South America.
Yeah.
The latest statistics I see, and this is just one resource, you know, cocoa and cocoa products would bring about 83 billion USD annually.
Okay.
That's just one commodity, one resource, you know.
Yeah.
Well, where's that money? Is that money getting filtered back in to Africa, to the Congo, to the places where these cocoa comes from? And because of it may reach the pockets of 1 or 2 corrupt politicians and whatnot who were happy to sell out their people for London, Washington, and Paris.
Yep.
Right? But, you know, that's just one little resource. And you look at the oil, you look at the plutonium, uranium, you look at everything, man, that's coming. Africa is mineral rich. So I don't want any of the young people in my family thinking Africa's full of poor people, savages, that are at war all the time, that are living on $1 a day. You do have aspects of these things, but you have aspects of these things here. When I come here, a pure riff-raff me see on that road there, you know, Scotty Road. People shuffling, you know, like they're just more in sleeping on the road than they're on drugs. Yeah. You know what I mean? So you don't have to look too far for these things. You don't have to look in Africa. You can see it right on your doorstep. And when you go to Africa and you have a working relationship with Mother Africa, you see a lot more, right, of positive vibrations, you know what I mean? You see people are working, people are living in good communities, certain streets are clean, especially in certain countries over others. Good infrastructures. Some infrastructures are very bad, but we're working on them. And some infrastructures are very good. You know what I mean? So we never really see, because if you live like for the BBC and these things, you just think that Africa's full of pestilence, starvation, war, and famine. And it isn't. Yeah.
Well, you know what, Raz? We're coming to the end of the show anyway, and I was definitely glad to have you back on season 2 of Discovering Big Condo Online. Yeah. And maybe, you know, we can get you on again if you go back before you go back to Rwanda, or maybe we can do a Zoom online or something like that. You know, your contributions are most definitely
I'd love to
needed.
do a Zoom at some point with some of my African brothers and sisters.
Oh, that'd be great.
They'd like to say hello to you guys, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, you know, I came here back to the UK because, you know, things are being slow because of the coronavirus and the restrictions. Yeah. So I came back to the NHS, done some good work, getting paid. But I will be going back home, and I'm looking forward to going back home. England is not my home. You know, I can't stay in Rome.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I dash away the scissors and I fling away the comb.
It's been excellent today anyway.
Nice, and, it's a pleasure to be here, brother.
And you know what? Thank you again, Ras Congo.
Give thanks, brother.
You know,
James.
Give thanks on the
Hotter
Big Condo. Discovering Big Condo Online.
And big up Chase as well.
That's it. Big up Chase.
Thank you, Chase.
And we've got season 2, and we're going to continue.
And remember to like and subscribe.
Please like and subscribe. Don't be shy, you know. Make sure you get down to that anyway. But thank you all for today anyway.
Thank you, boss.
Peace.
Peace out.